Okay, friends or enemies, whatever, frenemies. Let's continue. Let's speak about the bicycle mechanism. To be so, I'm glad we had like the previous relatively short chapter regarding the containers because it's like a good like a starting point to discuss the mechanism. I should say that it might sound very frightening, like this kind of ability, but yes, it's this is the way it is. You can use the different container, like as a rabbi, chief lord commander of the fleet, to give directions to the Neros wherever they are. They actually, and it's not like only, the separation between or like a differentiation between humans and titans. There are actually more. Even farther. There's even like more kind of like separations that you can do. Within each species, to further to have like a higher resolution of what Neros actually should be active. Even though I don't know of any way to how to do it. How to do it to a specific person. I don't know of such a way. And probably it's not needed. Because again, the divine view is not to seek revenge in this world on specific people. Almost never. Revenge stories are never like, they never end well. Like Montezuma and, Montezuma's daughter or Moby Dick, etc. Sometimes you can actually define a population by portraits, and I've created several good portraits like over the years, and some of them some are still with me. Actually, portraits of women, portraits of my daughters. I have so portraits are sometimes they are used as part of a symbolic language, but generally they are used in like as like two together. And again, this is something extremely common. I spoke about it so much, I cannot reiterate everything, but as I said in the previous video, it's almost all like any kind of construction of symbolic constructions. These are not symbolic. By the way, these are not symbolic constructions, and these are not symbolic constructions. These are containers for storage. There is like a way to do the construction and to make it active, and it's all like another issue of like what makes like the construction active. And this is very complicated. These are all very complicated subjects that I've actually addressed in the past. Still, even like just from the point of view of the starships, but also from the Neros. It's actually much easier with the Neros because they are like to determine when the construction is in effect, like when the symbol is in effect. It's actually easier. But even way before, I've even discovered that I speak so much about the issue of how do you determine the validity of the construction, of the symbolic construction from the point of view of the starship, which is much more difficult because potentially it can deal with effects that take, that are very long in their duration, throwing asteroids like over a planet, as you see. And and maybe there is like kind of like a recurring, something that is recurring, like reoccurring. So there is an issue of frequency and duration, which is much more complicated. So there's the issue of like when these things are actually in effect. And I get back to it just in a minute because it's important. But so almost always it's two containers, and within the containers there is also the duality of symbols, and this is something that repeats a lot all over these kind of videos. There are several the duality of symbols. Is something that is very common in the Nero language. It means there's one of the paradigms of this language. I call it the paradigm because it's not like a word or a group of words, but it's more like a way to create meaning, a meaningful, I should say, syntagma. I don't know. I'm not a linguist. I'm not very versed in terminology, but a meaningful object of meaning is many times to use two symbols that are very similar but not the same. This is something that you see a lot. Like for example, if you, for example, like, let's say, I mean, that you want to, I mean, like, to symbolize like a human, okay? So, I mean, like, I mean, what's, let's say, I mean, what's a proper symbol for a human in this language? So, an example for such a symbol will be actually, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's true, is like, I mean, the poster, like, I mean, the promotional poster for Lethal Weapon, the movies. Remember Lethal Weapon? Because you see a white person and a black person, and you see that one has like mustache and one doesn't have mustache, and one is a little bit older than the other. So all of this tells like the interpreter, like the receiver, that I mean that these are not, I mean, important, I mean, like parts like of the message. But I mean, both have like, I mean, 2 ears and mouth and 2 eyes and like, I mean, so they say, okay, so it's like a way to define the human. So I mean, so that will include not only black and white people, but all other colors. Because I mean, it says, I mean, it doesn't like, I mean, it says, okay, find like the similarities, and that way you will define a human for this purpose. Of course, I mean, you can say, but there are people that with only one eye and things like that. So I mean, you need to understand this is a language, and like any language, like any natural language, it cannot like capture reality like in totality. No natural language, I mean, every language, I mean, cannot like, I mean, like capture reality. Languages are fluid. I mean, there is also issue of context. It's the same with the neurons. I mean, the same symbol can mean different things in different contexts, and the same symbol can evolve over time, just like natural language of humans. It's the same. It's the same. I mean, the issue of context, issue of evolution of language. I mean, and I mean, they are not like, I mean, you know, like robots from, I don't know, from 1920 movies that are, I mean, so stern, and I mean, that must get like, I mean, their prescription, like, I mean, exactly what to do. It's not like that. They're intelligent, like, I mean, they're very intelligent, and their mind is flexible enough, I mean, to understand that, yes, like just like human, that you can understand that, yes, I mean, a human, I mean, is, I mean, you can identify a human by 2 eyes, mouth, like, I mean, 2 ears, but I mean, some have like mustache and some not, like in this poster, and some are black and some are white, and also, I mean, they can make the extrapolation to understand that some are yellow and some are, I don't know what, brown. Just like humans, they can make these extrapolations. And just like humans, sometimes they might emphasize specific aspect of the syntax, and I mean, and give less importance to other part of the syntax. This manifests itself in a way that sometimes, like, I mean, I create a symbol that I want to convey like a meaning, and like I forgot to like, I mean, like a part that is like, I mean, part of the symbol. I mean, like, I mean, one, I mean, I would say, like, I mean, one, I mean, like part of the symbol I forgot, or I mean, I failed to actually paint it or like create a structure of it, or just don't think that it's important enough. And I mean, from their perspective, I understand later that it's very important, and without that, they don't, like, I mean, they do not interpret the symbol. And other times, I mean, I understand that they understand my symbol, even though, I mean, I presumably, I mean, omitted very important parts, because I mean, they themselves, like, I mean, they kind of like completed, like, I mean, the missing part of the message. And this is just like humans. I mean, when you speak to humans, you know, sometimes there are some humans that, I mean, the syntax is incredibly important, and if you just don't use, like, I mean, some humans will just, I mean, will refuse to listen to these videos, actually, my own videos, because my English is far from perfect, and they will, I mean, it will be so, like, I mean, horrible to their ears that they will not, I mean, they will not, no matter if it's important or not, or interesting or not, they will not, they will, I mean, they will refuse to even listen to it. Many people are just like that. Or maybe they will find my accent, I mean, which is, of course, a terrible accent, like Israeli terrible accent, so annoying that they couldn't even, like, understand whatever I say, or they wouldn't want to understand. But some other people would have no problem, like, I mean, at all. I mean, they will not even, like, I mean, they will not have problem with my accent, and they will have no problem, like, I mean, they will even, they won't notice, I mean, most of my errors that are plenty, like in the English language. So I mean, and many times, I mean, there is a failure of communication with people that are using natural language, and this is the same with the neurons. I mean, it's a language with all the, I mean, the parameters, like, I mean, that you know from, like, human languages, and it's important to understand it. So I've mentioned the issue of frequency, and this is important because starting long ago, I don't know when, but long ago, these starships started to circulate around the Earth and to fry it with radiation. And it's been done in like periodical way. And this is all related to the way that humans treat the strangers. And it's only getting worse with the years. And starting in the 70s, this could not have been like, go unnoticed by, by the power of this world. But of course, they don't want to, admit the fact that this is aliens that are attacking the Earth. So you might ask, so why, in order, to just, make it impossible for any kind of question or to negate the possibility of any misunderstanding. Why wouldn't this starship just land on Earth and just will tell us? Yes, we are this and that, and you should know that we fry the Earth. Because of your sins. So first of all, do you want it to happen? Do you think that if it would have happened like now or any time else during the 20th century, it would have been a fruitful event for humanity? They are not more stupid than you are. They can understand the consequences better than you are. And so, just think about it. Do you want it? Do you want it to happen? This is the short answer. The long answer is a very interesting issue, and I wrote about it a very nice post 3 years ago, and I promised to hold a video, with kind of narration of this post, because it's very important and I think very interesting, but it's just not for now. And this is the issue of first contact. How can you even expect first contact to happen? Again, borrowing from The Left Hand of Darkness, and again, I think The Left Hand of Darkness is an amazing novel in this, from in general, it's a great science fiction novel, and it's very important for my own life. It's very important, and I give it even a religion interpretation. It's easy to lend the novel to the religious interpretations, even though it mostly is not interpreted following Christian lines, but completely different angles. But as the great novels are, they can be interpreted in all sorts of ways. But I discussed his master voice and the childhood's end and all sorts of theoretical issues in this post that and I explain what could you even expect from first contact before you even just deal with the actual person like me that is manifestly an alien used by strict laboratory repeatable laboratory experiments. Even before you actually speak about who is this person and what can we expect from him and what can we just from theoretical perspective, there is much that you can understand just by analyzing this the hypothetical situation of first contact. And one of the first things that you can understand is that a situation like in childhood ends, like Arthur C. Clarke's childhood ends, is destructive to humanity, and it actually destroys humanity in the novel. It's the end of humanity in the novel. So it's kind of it's a good explanation of what happens if a bunch of starship actually is landing on Earth. It's the end of humanity. After that, humanity cannot longer continue the way that it is. And it's in that respect, it's realistic, because yes, if they do it, if aliens would actually do it, this is the end of the humanity. You wouldn't be able to exist after that, for all sorts of reasons. That's why The Left Hand of Darkness, of sending one messenger that looks like like human, like the inhabitants of the planet, is probably the correct way. But again, there is also the issue of revelation, because revelation is something that destroys creation. There's the issue of tzimtzum in Kabbalah. It's the idea that in order to create a world, God needed to reduce himself. To compress itself, because when there is revelation, the world is destroyed, and not for nothing. The word revelation, it's also the same. It's called apocalypse, which is also has another meaning, which is apocalypse. So it's not for nothing. This kind of etymology does not it's not a coincidence that revelation and apocalypse are the same thing. Because, I mean, people understood it thousands of years ago that, I mean, whenever there is a revelation, the world is destroyed in some way. God cannot reveal himself to human like all the time, because then there will be no world. Revelation must be like very, I mean, even if God reveals himself like to one human, this is debilitating. Like, I mean, completely. I mean, this human, I can tell you from my own experience that, I mean, like, it takes you a year or a year and a half, just, I mean, like, I mean, to get up, like, I mean, and because you feel like a worm, you feel like nothing. Because the problem is that, I mean, in the monotheistic religion, starting, I mean, specifically during the last 1,000 years, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, I mean, the prevalent thought of God is kind of completely transcendental and something, I mean, that you cannot even speak about, and out of completely, I mean, this is like, I mean, this is following like Thomas Aquinas and then many, I mean, so in such a way, I mean, you cannot really understand like how much God is smart and good, because, I mean, you can't quantify it. Because it's like part of like, I mean, the rational thought of like modern monotheistic religions, more modern, I mean, during that 1,000 years, that, I mean, not to speak at all about God, but if paradoxically, if you, I mean, imagine God not like as an like as like, I mean, like as like like his power without limits, but paradoxically, if you think about God as someone that, I mean, is just a million times smarter than humans, then it gets much more frightening in a paradoxical way. Because if he's all powerful and all smart and like, I mean, and like he has all the knowledge, like, you know, knows everything, and like, I mean, so you can't even imagine it, and it's kind of like you distance yourself from it. But if you imagine an entity which does not have like limitless power or limitless knowledge, just million times knowledge and power than you are, and wisdom, and also goodness, this is much more frightening. Because you just, by getting just a taste of it, just, I mean, like, I mean, like an atom of, I mean, of these powers, just, I mean, you are crushed to the ground. And this is, I can tell you from my own experience, it's not a theoretical. You are crushed to the ground. You understand that, I mean, you are nothing. I mean, you thought, I mean, up until the age of 36 or 37, you thought of yourself like Homo sapiens, like a smart one. And I mean, not that I don't think that I was a very vain person, actually. I mean, I think that this kind of like, I think that, I mean, if you have too much vanity and too much ego, I mean, this kind of like, I mean, experiments will kill you. And I think that you need to be like pretty modest to begin with in order to survive this. Because this crushes you completely, because you understand it. I mean, you just, you know nothing, and I mean, all of humanity are stupid, and you know nothing at all. Grey worm, like nothing. And this is debilitating. And I mean, so you ask yourself, why should I even get out of bed? I mean, what can I do in this world that, I mean, will be of any meaning? I mean, when you know that, I mean, there is such an entity that is so smarter, I mean, in such, I mean, an unbelievable way, then, I mean, and it takes you time to just get out of bed and continue your life, I mean, in some way. It just, I mean, it's so debilitating. And this is, I mean, if it happens to one person, and not to a particularly vain person. Because again, for a vain person, this would be like a fatal experience. They will die. So God cannot reveal himself like to everyone all the time, or even once, because humanity will just be crushed. They will see no point in like doing anything at all. And this is somehow resembles the situation in Childhood Ends, How to See Clouds. There is also a TV show that I haven't seen, but I mean, if you don't want to read the novel, there is also a TV show. I don't know how good it is. It's relatively new, I mean, the novel is several decades now. Of course, there is also presumably the option to, so you can say, okay, so instead of like spaceship, just send a message. Send a message, because the message is less frightening than like, I mean, like a navy of spaceship that, I mean, land on Earth and completely crushes like the motivation and of people, and completely destroy all at 1 second, destroys all their institutions. Like in 1 minute deletes like everything. And so instead, maybe just send a message. So, and the message will be presumably much less frightening, because they will, I mean, presumably they will not be. First of all, not everyone will know about the message, at least not immediately, and it will be much less, I mean, of like frightening, and maybe it will not have the crushing and debilitating effects on humanity. So just send a message. So this is also a very interesting issue, and I've discussed it in this post. I don't want to talk about it right now, but this relates to the best novel that I know. There are two novels that are very kind of like famous that deal with this kind of situation. The first, the Western version, like the American version is Contact by Carl Sagan, and the Soviet version is which is immensely better, is Master Voice of Stanislav Lem. So I discussed his Master Voice. It's a very interesting novel, and very intelligent. It's almost too scholarly, because I mean the plot is almost non-existent. It's kind of like a science fiction that is extremely scientific and academic, and it's not to the taste of anyone. But I found the novel amazing and enlightening, and as many, this is actually repeating like theme in the writing of Stanislav Lem, is that the inadequacy of communication, because after when all it's, after all, at the end, people just they don't have any, they just, even though it's certain to them that this is a message like from an intelligent entity, and even though they make remarkable achievements in the deciphering process, which is very interesting. No communication is actually established, and the whole project is just, it's just buried. And this is actually, this might be. There is a novel that is much more famous of Stanislav Lem. It is called Solaris. With, it's also this is much more digestible. It's kind of it deals with similar themes, but it's much more simpler. But again, it also deals with communication with another entity that just fails. There is a failure of communication. This is something that you can see in his writing. Because such a message will, and again, there is so much to say about it, but the bottom line is that it's impossible to send a message. You have to send, you have to establish two-way communication. You have to find a way, as a stronger side, because there is always a stronger side and the weaker side. It's not that's the way it is, in space. Of course, statistically speaking. And the stronger side is, of course, it needs to be the moral side. They are the more mature. Look at you. You are disgusting children, all humans. And the Israelis are, I don't know what they are, but they're like monkeys. But you're all children. So the stronger side must be the one with the more moral outlook of moral values. So the stronger side needs to think, what can actually be done. Of course, one way is to take the easy approach of Star Trek, of prime directive. Don't interfere. But this is, I don't want to. I can't outline the whole post, but I explained it very well in the post. I think why the prime directive is absolutely immoral, and this is actually a stand that is occurs a lot in Star Trek series, starting the original series. The original Kirk was not fond at all of the prime directive, and for a reason, because it's ridiculous. But it's not only ridiculous; it's problematic because of many ways. That even you cannot think there are many reasons why this is extremely problematic. The prime directive. Prime directive is supposedly says that you will not that any intelligent species should not reveal itself in any way and should not interact in any way with another sentient creatures before they by their own self invent faster than light travel. before they have like the engine that allows faster than light travel, no sentient creature, like none of the other sentient creatures that already have this technology and are aware of their existence, they shouldn't interfere with them at all. Like nothing, no kind of interference. So maybe I'll speak about it some other time. It's not, because it's a whole issue in itself, because it's immoral and impractical and very problematic for many reasons. And also this kind of a thing, it actually, this enhanced, like, it constructs a universe that is prone to wars. Because, when do people discover such engine? Also, by the way, in the movie Star Trek First Contact, but it actually makes sense, it will be like that. As part of a big war. Because it's a missile with tremendous amount of destruction force. So, it's not, in this movie, the technology is discovered by humans right after, like, the World War III of something that destroyed, like, most of the people of the Earth. But this is actually a realistic scenario. It probably will be something like that without any intervention. Or that, following this kind of discovery, there will be like a world war with complete destruction. So, So presumably the strong side should wait until all this war will be done and to see if someone actually survives. And of the remnants, maybe they still have the technology of the warp drive. And only then, this pompous self-righteousness Vulcans will land on Earth and say, long live and prosper. Where have you been until now? All the Earth was destroyed in a war. And this is extremely realistic scenario that such thing will happen. Following the philosophy of the Prime Directive. It's extremely realistic that it will be just like that. And what will be the lesson for the weak side that is now like joining like the family of like stronger sides? That the most important thing is to have this, a destructive technology and very very strong missiles. And the first thing that they will do is try to figure out how to get more weapons, with stronger weapons, more missiles. How can they conquer like other species? That's the kind of universe that you will actually create. By the sick notion of the Star Trek Prime Directive. That you must wait for a huge war. And and you will encourage like more wars between all the stronger species of this universe. It doesn't make sense. And also, if you know and you can predict, the technology tree is something that you can predict. If you look like an outsider. So if you know that this species is about to discover the warp drive, the faster than light travel, which is actually just to clarify, it's a thing. Yes, faster than light travel is possible in this universe. If you don't know, so now you know. So if like as an observer, like one of the the upper class of the species that already have it, like you observe this culture, you can predict that in a year or 10 years or like 5 years they will discover it. Because it's kind of like it's not that they start from the wheel and then immediately they invent the iPhone and then it's like faster than light travel. So you can predict that this won't happen. So why not reveal yourself before the war and before it actually been created? If you see that they are in the trajectory to create it, why not reveal yourself before it actually invented, and maybe this way you can prevent this war from happening. So but how long before? Just 5 years before? Like 1 year before? But maybe it's too late. Maybe it's already part of a war, like in the movie Star Trek First Contact. But maybe 10 years or 20 years? But maybe it's already after so many other catastrophic events where these people crash themselves totally, because of course they are warmongering civilization. That's why they are so interested in missiles, including faster than light travel. So maybe 100 years before. But if you're so smart, like as an outsider species, maybe you can predict that these monkeys can actually have both the prosperity towards war and competition and expansion, but also the brain faculties that are needed in order to create such technology. And maybe if you're smart enough and you have enough experience, and why shouldn't you have? Because presumably you live for millions or maybe billions of years. Maybe you can predict it 100,000 years before they actually invent this stuff. So why not start inventing the intervention back then? But wait, I mean, if you just reveal yourself, again, like in the childhood ends, I mean, scenarios, you will destroy the species before it's even started to evolve. Like, I mean, to climb in the technology ladder. So you want them to progress in their own way, and you want them to have like their own culture, and you understand that, I mean, they have the right to create progress in their own way, and you don't want to force your own culture on them, because it's their right to be whatever they are. But again, I mean, you can, like 100,000 years before, you can actually suspect, I mean, not even suspect, but I mean, be quite certain that they have both the propensities towards war and expansion, and on the other side, the brain faculties that are needed in order to get, like, to the point that they will create this warp drive. So you want to intervene before it actually happens and presumably destroys humanity. So when is the correct time? So the answer is, the correct time to do it is very, very early, but in a secret way. And that's exactly what happened in Earth. This is exactly what happened in Earth. Long ago. Long ago. Way before Jesus Christ, and way before Moses. Way before Ramses II. Way before. Long time. It's already happened. Long time ago. And you can understand it just by rational thinking. You don't even need like proof. So why send one? Why not send 10? So, but if you send 10, I mean, it will be like with Pharaoh in the book of Genesis, like, I mean, with the 10 brothers. 10 are enough in order for a paranoid king, and all kings are paranoid, I mean, to fear that this kind of like invasion. Why do they need 10? And if there are 10, I mean, you can say, wait, but I mean, if they will say exactly the same thing, you will think, okay, they are all robots, they are robotics, they don't have any consciousness. But if they will differ, like in one word between the others, who will say, I mean, who should I believe? Maybe I shouldn't believe any of them, because, I mean, they don't say exactly the same message. So what's the optimal number of messengers to send? The answer, of course, is 1. Even though I should say that not always in the history of humankind there was only one like cherub on Earth. It wasn't always the case. Sometimes there were actually more than one at the same time, but not like as a big group, not like as a political entity or something like that. But there were times with more than one. But in general, you're not going to get, I mean, to get good results with much more than one. And probably 1 is the optimal number. And yes, maybe they will kill the guy. Yes, maybe they will put it in an asylum. Maybe they will torture him. Maybe, if they are humans, most probably they will torture the guy. Most probably. But yet again, 1 is probably the optimal number. Even though I say again, it wasn't always only 1 on Earth. But not much more than that. So it's sometimes the spaceship started to rally at the Earth. This is not a new issue, but it's only getting worse. And those that suffer the most for it are those that have eaten the robots. And this included almost all the intelligence community in Israel during the 70s. And also the Black Knights, I mean, they had many of these in their body because they had so much relationship with all sorts of women. And also the Venusian women themselves felt it, but to a much lesser extent. But they also felt it. But it affected the most of all, it affected the Black Knights. But not enough to kill them. And I should remind you again that the problem here is not just, I mean, a mechanical problem of the bicycle. It was and still is, but it was during the 70s and the 80s. It was an international problem of how can you. People knew about the gates. As I said, there was an Iranian gates and the gate. There is one in the United States, even though they probably almost certainly don't know about it. There is one in China that is not used, but they know about it. And there is more than one in Israel. So people knew about the gates, but in Russia there was one that was used by the Soviet people. People knew about the gates, but they didn't want to care about what's going on in Israel. Either because they were part of the crime, or either because why should it was it's not like something that was in public eye, and why should they move their do they move their arms and legs now? Do they do anything to rescue me from this torture? No. And they didn't do it 40 years ago. It was just like that. So the problem is, how can you actually make people care in this world? Like, how can you? You need some kind of a power. You are alone. You are not part of an intelligence community, and and you are not a political person. You're just a man of constant soul. How can you? You force people to see what's going on. And I should also mention that there was much of, just like today, much uncertainty regarding the bicycle mechanism. Because, as always, everything is shrouded in rumors and secrets, and people never had any unified view over this issue. And more to the point, specifically, there were quite a few females during the time, Venusian females, and maybe up to today, that actually thought that if the man, their true husband, like the Black Knight, is dying, they will die with him. It's kind of in the tradition, when the husband dead, they're killed. The traditions that the wives are the wife or wives are buried. With him, burned or something like that. So they thought, that maybe it's like that. Just biologically so that when they had some kind of this is completely wrong. That's it's not true. But I will explain why they thought that it's. What was the problem, the error in their thinking, which is again amplified by Israeli propaganda, and because Israelis wanted them to think that way, and maybe some think like that until today, even though it's wrong. They died long ago, and you are not dead, like the Venusians, their wives. So this is not. It's not true, and it's the whole thought is rooted in error. But you know what? I'll create another video because, this is an issue in itself, and let's speak about this very technical issue in new chapter that I will start very shortly.